Now, into the ticket office of Disneyland.
Oh boy, let's do this.
Don't think the CIA is going to be trying to hack your second-gen iPod.
I didn't think so. There might have been a lot of illegal music on there. I wouldn't doubt it. But, I mean...
You were supposed to bring death to the flagships, not join them.
Google has found a new way to piss me off.
iTunes is a constant source of embarrassment.
Every time I say it, it's going to suck even more.
Everyone's idiots.
I am Nadella. I can't do it anymore without laughing. I was going to do the whole thing.
Welcome, everyone, to the Calling All Platforms podcast. I am your host, Wes, and I'm here with Landon.
Hello.
And Caleb.
Hi.
And we are here to talk all things tech this week, which there's not a lot of news, but this might be a little different because we have a couple little things sprinkled around a topic we want to talk about. So it'll be a little different episode, but we're going to give it a whirl on this and see the thoughts that Caleb wanted us to talk about.
Oh,
and it's probably
thoughts. No thoughts. Empty behind the eyes. I just have a question, and then I'm going to let you guys talk.
Oh, fair. Okay. Well, let's get into it. We do have a little bit of Apple news we wanted to discuss. The iOS 26 Beta 2.
Yes, listener, if you listened to our last episode, you heard me. Was it last episode that I ranted about iOS 26? I don't even remember.
Yeah, I think
you
so.
actually started ranting about it for quite a while.
I mean,
many times.
The first beta had a lot to rant about, to be fair. In my opinion, there was just a lot of not great things. Beta 2 has since come out, and I've had a few days to play around and look around and see what's different. And I did read some articles of people that actually dig around the code to find out what's different, because, you know, they're smarter and they know what they're looking for. I just read their articles, and it's very helpful. And the first thing that I saw in one of those articles that made me really, really happy was they added a toggle inside of the camera settings to switch the way you swipe to different modes. Because obviously pretty much everyone hated that new way of swiping that was backwards. So you can go, it's unfortunate that you have to go into settings, and it wasn't easy to find either. Like, I can't remember exactly where it's at, but like, it was like way down at the bottom, and like a whole bunch, like you had to really be looking for it in order to toggle this on. And even when you're reading, it's like, hey, if I toggle this on, does it actually do what I want it to? Because the way it's worded, it's like a politician wrote it or something. It's really hard to understand and makes you like question exactly what you're voting for. I mean, toggling for. But I turned it on. I went to the camera app, and there, yes, it's now back to normal. At least when it comes to swiping, it still has the weird look that it had before. Which I mean, honestly, it's not that bad. It looks fine. It's just different than it was. But yes, now you can swipe the way you're used to it, as long as you go and switch that on in settings. So when you, listener, download iOS 26, you're probably going to want to do that immediately. And then the other few things that I've noticed, there wasn't a lot of major changes here, but there are changes for the better, like that one. And this one, notifications are now much easier to read. When they pop up on the home, like if you're inside of an app or on the home screen, when the notifications pop up, depending on if you're in light mode or dark mode, they have either a slightly lighter background of the notification or a darker background notification, making it easier to read, which is very, very helpful. And I actually first noticed this inside of a game. Like when I open a game, it pops up with a little thing saying, oh, we've linked this game to Game Center. You know, that always happens when you open a game inside of iOS. And initially, like on the first beta, you couldn't read any of that because it was clear and white text. And unless you're playing a game that has a dark background, you weren't reading that. And I actually had taken a few screenshots of that, and I just never got around to sharing them anywhere. But now that's been fixed, so that's nice. And this is also the same case when it comes to just regular notifications. Great. And they also kind of put a little bit of a frosted glass look to these notification bubbles or glass things that they want it to be, you know? Making it so whatever's in the background, you can still see through it, but it is slightly blurred. Very nice. Very nice. And then, so when I saw these, I'm like, oh, now I got to go check the lock screen notifications to see if they're any better. And now they do not react to whether you are in light mode or dark mode. They are the same. Still, it's more or less what would be on light mode. So it's a relatively light glass thing that the notifications come into. But it does blur the background. So it's a little bit of that frosted glass look. And therefore, you can actually read the notifications. Now, if you do have some white in your background and mostly dark colors, like mine is mostly colored with a few white little stripes in there, and when the text is in the white areas, it's still white text, so it's still kind of hard to read in those places. But overall, it is a much, much better experience. So obviously, again, people were complaining about this, and Apple actually listened and did the right thing. So that's nice. iOS 26 is now much better to look at than it used to be. So good job, Apple. You're going the right direction here.
Well, at what point does it just start looking like Windows Vista is the real question.
Well, yeah,
True.
It's getting there. But it's not quite there yet. It's getting close though.
Boy, Windows Vista, that's a blast from the past. We'll just say that.
Yeah, spicy throwbacks.
You know, I'll say this. This is as if Apple had made Windows Vista, this is kind of what you would expect. So, better looking version of Windows Vista.
So Mac
There you
Vista.
go.
And more usable. Not that that's hard,
Okay.
but
All right. We'll move on to some Microsoft news. We're going to talk about some Microsoft XP Crocs.
listener, this is something
There you
that
go.
I actually put into the doc because I had to
Yep.
talk about this. When I can't remember where I heard about this. It was on some other podcast, but they mentioned, I'm like, wait, this is a thing? And sure enough,
Mhm.
I mean, they're not available to the general public at the moment. There are rumors that it will be available. Like right now, if you're a Microsoft employee, apparently you can buy these, but supposedly they also sold out really fast. I mean, I am not the target demographic for anything made by the company Crocs because
Right.
I mean, it's funny because this is like our generation. Okay, listener, we're in the millennial generation. Crocs came out when we were coming of age, and this should be our thing. I don't understand it whatsoever. I really hope that they would have died when Crocs were kind of going downhill a little bit, and then in the last 5 to 10 years, they've just shot back with a vengeance, and I really wish they would have died back in the day. Because
Yeah.
I do have to say I've never actually worn regular Crocs. I did own a pair of Crocs flip-flops, and they were really comfortable. But I've never worn regular Crocs. I'm sure they're comfortable, but I just can't bring myself to do that. One, because of how they look, and two, because nope, not gonna do it. But these ones are fantastic. These, like Wes said, they are Windows XP themed Crocs. So the bottom sole of the shoe is green, like your traditional Windows XP wallpaper that is the green grass meadow with the blue sky and the clouds. So the bottom is green, and then the top part is that blue sky with the clouds, and they look fantastic. They also apparently come with a bag, like one of those little drawstring backpacks that is also, like, it's basically that image on the bag, and it's fantastic. And then, just for fun, they also come with one of the worst possibly named products out there. They're called Jibbits. Listener, if you have Crocs, you probably know what they are. But Jibbits are those little things that they're basically charms, for lack of a better term, that go inside of the little holes around the Crocs to add person. I don't know what they're for.
Flare.
Flair, that's the word.
Flare.
Yes.
But that being
Flare
said,
on Crocs. That's,
yeah,
mhm.
because they need to stand out even more. But they made some pretty decent ones here. There's like an arrow key, like a mouse arrow key, or gibbet. Oh, it's the stupidest word. But my favorite one is they made a clippy gibbets thing.
Yeah.
And that's great. Like that alone is almost worth buying these shoes just to have the clippy gibbets.
Just for
thing.
clippy.
And it's great.
I mean, can I just say, as the years pass and AI becomes more AI, I miss Clippy more and more.
yeah.
Like,
I think a
man,
lot of us do.
he just wanted to help as opposed to dooming humanity the way that AI is doing now. Feel bad.
It's fair. It's fair. But yeah. So these, I do, as much as I really don't like Crocs, these are fantastic. And this is something Microsoft is doing to celebrate 50 years of Microsoft. So it's kind of cool. And like I said, they're not available to purchase just as a general consumer at the moment. With all the press that they've gotten from these, it would be really stupid if they didn't make these available to just buy.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be people, probably Wes, that buys these. Actually, that's not
Say,
true.
this might be my
demographic.
first pair of Crocs. Like, I've never owned Crocs, but I genuinely saw a picture of these and I was like, ooh.
That's kind of what I thought as well. But the
That
price
would be
tag,
a big conversation starter right there.
Oh, yeah.
the reported price tag is $80, which that's a lot of money for a couple pieces of rubber. But,
It is expensive, but I feel like worth it.
I'm not saying it's not worth it. It's just a lot of money. I mean,
It's just a lot of money.
nowadays, regular, just run-of-the-mill Crocs cost around $50. So it's not that
Oh,
much
gosh,
more.
what?
Yep. You heard that right.
Crocs, what happened to you?
They got popular again. That's what happened.
I can buy knockoff Crocs on Temu for like $5. What the crap?
I mean, that's my
And they're
kids have been
probably
asking
made in
for
the same
Crocs.
factory from the same molds,
I mean,
same
yes,
materials.
My kids ask for Crocs all the time. We buy them the cheap versions. That we don't buy them name brand
Yeah.
Crocs because they're
man.
ridiculously expensive. But
Yep.
yeah, so if you want them, just keep a lookout for them because again, I'm sure that they will become available. If they don't, Microsoft, what are you doing? You have so many people that are just ready to throw money at you for these shoes because they're fantastic. Coming again from someone who really doesn't like Crocs, I would be tempted because they're great.
Well, it's Satya Nadella that's running it, so if it doesn't have AI on it, then he probably would discontinue it. So
That's fair.
I
mean, they do say they're limited edition anyways, so. Now, I was
Yeah.
going to say, Wes, if you were going to buy any, they would have to be Xbox-themed Crocs.
Oh,
I would get a little Xbox flare. Of course I would.
And you would probably
Yes.
buy 3
And-
pairs of them.
And a Zune flare. I'd get a Zune flare. 'Cause that,
Ooh.
I mean, come on.
I mean, they would have
The
to be
little-
like
little,
brown Crocs, and that
symbol.
would just look weird.
oh man. I'm sure they make Crocs that color.
Oh, I
Actually.
guarantee they make Crocs that are
I like
basically Zune color.
I'd do it. Just for the pictures. All right. We'll go ahead and move on to a little bit more general tech news. First thing we got here, guess what? The Pebble is back. But hey, for real this time.
Yeah, listeners. So we talked a while back that the original, person that founded Pebble, Eric Mijakovsky. Yes, that's his name. It's a fun one. He was going to be remaking more or less the Pebble watches, but under a different name because Google technically owns the Pebble name. The Pebble brand was purchased by Fitbit, which was then purchased by Google. So they made these. There was the Core, the Core Time 2 and the Core, my favorite one, the Core 2 Duo, which was just fantastic, making fun of Intel there. But there's been a recent update as of a couple. I completely forgot to mention this last week, listener. I'm very sorry for that because it did happen a couple weeks ago. But Google is letting them use the Pebble name and branding for all their stuff. So now it's no longer the Core 2 Duo and the Core Time 2. They are legitimately the Pebble 2 Duo watch and the Pebble Time 2 watches. So Pebble is officially and in reality back from the dead, and it is fantastic. I love it. I love seeing things like this, and I'm shocked that Google is like, yeah, just take it. We're not going to do anything with it. You can use it. What? Thanks, Google.
That's pretty cool.
Did something nice for once. It's great.
Awesome. All right. Let's take a look at this discussion topic. You know what? I'll go ahead and let Caleb, since he's the one that brought this on here, you go ahead and read this here for a discussion topic.
All right. The question on the table today. How long, given our current climate, do we think it will be before people start handwriting everything to prove they didn't generate it with AI? Now, I just want to say, listener, I asked this question from a point of genuine curiosity, but also from a perspective of this is going to matter for me because my handwriting is a travesty.
Mm-hmm.
I learned how to type at an early age, and I touch type quite well. My average words per minute the last time I checked, which I don't really check very often, but it's around the 75 WPM mark, which at that speed is about as quick as I can think, frankly. So unless I'm copying text from one document to another, it's not hampering me at those speeds. And quite frankly, I would probably die of boredom if I was just sitting there transcribing documents into Word all the time. Yeah. So typically when I am typing, I am composing at the same time. So 75 words per minute, plenty fast. And I am not a world where I have to handwrite stuff just to prove that I actually wrote it. Not necessarily one that I would love to exist in, but I can also see an argument that no, like if you want to convince me that you actually wrote this letter to me, you may have to literally write it down with hand or by hand and that sort of thing. So no, I'm curious. What do we think?
So I'm kind of in the same boat as you, Caleb, because my handwriting is so bad. Like so very bad. Like there are times where I write notes and I'm legitimately trying to write things relatively nicely. I'll go back to that note a week or two later. Like, hey, what is that? What was I writing? I don't know what that is. Like, I can't read my own handwriting when I'm trying to write well. It's really bad. So, I get the fact that might be a thing. So my opinion on this is because we've been in a world for so long where very few people handwrite anything anymore, and that's not just a recent development. That's been the last 25 plus years that people that handwrite anything is just really low. Now, 25 years ago, even 15 years ago, letters, if people wrote letters to each other, they were more often than not handwritten. Nowadays, if people are writing letters, they're still typing them out a lot of the time.
That's true.
Unless you're like a young kid. Like my kids, they have friends that live in far distant places from where we are. So they will actually handwrite letters to them. But that's mostly because I'm not letting them on my computer. My wife's not letting them on her computer. And it's just easier for them and quicker for them to just handwrite it out. So they do that. Now, it will come to a point where they get to an age where they are typing a lot faster than they do now. And it will be easier for them to type it, print it, and or just email, because
Mm-hmm.
that's the thing to do nowadays. But so, like, that being said, I there are going to be some situations I think handwriting things will be necessary because of this. But at the same time, like, it got brought up we kind of very quickly were talking about this inside of Slack, listener, and I purposely didn't respond too much. I'm like, I'm going to save this for the podcast. But it got brought up about, like, job resumes and cover letters and things like that. And I think there are certain jobs that will at some point, they will probably require handwritten things just to prove that you actually wrote it out. Now, whether or not you're just copying down what you posted from AI, that's, that can still happen. But I could see certain jobs requiring some sort of handwritten thing to kind of prove that you actually know what you're doing. But I also think that the majority of jobs out there they may care a little bit, but they're not going to care too specifically or too much. Like, unless your job is requiring you to be on the creative end, especially when it comes to any sort of writing. It doesn't even have to be you're not a writer, but if you do anything that has any sort of written word, they're going to want you to be able to come up with that stuff on your own. And those jobs are going to be wanting more critical thinking skills. But there are going to be a lot of jobs that don't require that I don't necessarily think are going to care as much.
Counterpoint to that, most of the jobs that don't care about your, say, creative, if the job requires some sort of creative output, they don't really care about your resume or your cover letter or anything like that. They probably don't even ask for those.
Right.
They probably just ask, put a link for your portfolio in here.
Yeah.
We're going to go look at what you generate. And unless it's, written word type stuff, but anything, they're going to want to see a portfolio. The rest of the jobs, pretty much every job out there, has been having you submit digital resumes for probably a decade or more.
Yeah.
Like pretty much across the board at this point. Even if you want to apply for a fast food place, you go online, you go to their website, you submit a digital resume, right? And for the past few years, those resumes are not reviewed by a human in the first step. They're reviewed by an AI.
Yeah.
And now that we have AIs writing resumes, most of the resumes are meeting the minimum standard for what the AI is looking for,
Mm-hmm.
because it's an AI that's vetting it.
Yeah.
And so I suspect that we are currently in the middle of HR, hiring managers, anybody, recruiters, anyone who does that work, being absolutely inundated with repetitive, samey, AI-generated slop from their resumes that their AI system is not cleaning up for them, or that they're not actually getting any resumes because the AI recognizes that all the resumes are AI generated and is cutting all of them. It's one or the other. And I suspect it's not going to be that long before the HR people get pissed at the system, get sick of it, recognize that all they're getting with the resume is a name and contact information, because all the rest of it isn't real. It was hallucinated by a computer. And so they can't get any useful information out of that process. I do kind of wonder if they're going to be the ones that push back and are like, no, I can't hire people like this. And they're going to be like, nope, send me walk into the store, hand me a piece of paper that is the resume filled out. Like, that's what we're going to do now. It's almost like I can totally see that being the case.
I could see that happening when it comes to the type of jobs that not necessarily just anybody can apply to, but kind of the jobs that almost anybody can apply to, like your general big box stores of any variety, whether it's like shopping with Walmart or Target, or even like Home Depot or Lowe's, or like fast food places. I could see those places going back, because even 15 years ago, I remember applying to different places like that, and I know my online resume didn't get past whatever barriers, because it was within like a day or two that I got an email back saying, "Oh, we're not hiring," even though your website says you're hiring at this location. It's like,
Yep.
What the heck? But
Yep.
I could see those type of places that just do get tons and tons and tons of people applying, come into the store and talk to somebody saying you want to work here.
Yeah.
And I'm actually already seeing signs like that at certain places because they do get a bunch of stuff. But then it's going to be like, not necessarily specialty places, but places that do require some form of skill are going to probably still have online things. Like, I work in a machine shop, and technically anybody could get hired at my place because we do train people, and you usually will start with relatively easy things to do, and you can just apply online if you have basic skills in certain things. Like, if you can do math, you can read a blueprint, you can most likely get hired at my facility, because we can train you to do everything else to an extent. And so, like, those type of things, I could see those type of places still keeping the online thing. We're not going to get a lot of people applying to work at my job, and that's going to be the case with a lot of other jobs. But I could honestly see these places where they are people's first place to work, or like people that
Your
retiree
local McDonald's
type
is going to insist you actually show up in person.
Yes, like, I could see those type of places, because they just get inundated with applications all the time.
And here's the thing. I don't know, like, I haven't necessarily heard about this happening, but it would not at all surprise me to find out that there exist automations that you can use to have ChatGPT generate resumes and cover letters and auto submit them to specific URLs for you. So at that point, you're not even necessarily actually applying for jobs. The robot is doing it for you, and then a robot is reading the applications, and that accomplishes nothing. So yeah, it's interesting. Wes, what are your thoughts?
Well, thoughts that we haven't talked about, but one, I will also say my handwriting is atrocious as well. So
it's very much a generational thing, I think.
Yeah, it's terrible, and my kids make fun of me. Everyone makes fun of me for it. So, but I guess, I don't know. I thought about this for a little while, and I even made the comment in our Slack. I was like, I think people actually do this, because there was one time I was asked that some people wanted to apply at the company I'm at, and they actually asked me, they're like, would they actually? I know I have to apply online, but if I go into HR, can I give them this, because I want to show them that I actually know how to do a cover letter. I actually know how to do this. Will they actually accept it? And at that, I was dumbfounded, because I was like, I don't know, because when I did it, I had to handwrite it at the time. But the company I've gone through they've updated everything so much that it's always online and all this stuff. And so it's like, I don't know. I don't know if they just say, oh, put this online or whatnot. So it's interesting, because there are people out there that are doing this, because they do see that, like, I want to show that I can do this, and I'm not just having some quote unquote AI do it.
I want to stand out a little bit.
Now, I've got thoughts on that, because I do think if you are the person that wants to do that, I would say go into a place and ask if they're hiring. And if they tell you to go online, that's fine. But then they know, like, give them your name, give them your information. You don't necessarily have to give them your resume or cover letter, because they probably won't take it, because, like, where I work now, they used to do that, but nowadays they will tell you go online and see what's available. Mm-hmm. But if you have made that face-to-face contact talking with somebody, they can be looking out for your name. And when they see it, you will be bumped up that list immediately. In
Well,
most
and then
cases.
that depends if that AI allowed that person to go through.
Right.
too.
It's true.
But,
Yeah,
that
if
is,
they
you know,
see it, that's the
I mean, but also, I also kind of feel, and I'm like, okay, what if, if I'm applying to, say, Google, would I say, hey, just so you know, had Gemini help me write this. Would that help you?
I think,
I don't know.
Here's the thing: all of the engineers that I know, if you were to say that, anyone who has dealt with the AI, and I imagine I've got to believe anyone who actually helped work on it, would hear that and immediately dismiss you because they don't trust their own. It's it's a classic saying that you have. On the one hand, you have your tech influencer who's all like, I've got smart everything in my house. I've got smart light bulbs and smart blinds and Alexa and Google Voice and all that in every single room and all this stuff. And then you have the actual developers who made the tech that are like, the most sophisticated thing in my house is a printer, and I keep a baseball bat sitting next to it in case it makes any funny noises. Like,
it's true.
A lot of times
you're not
they
wrong.
know the limitations of their technology better than anyone else, and they don't trust it. So, that's kind of the read that I get there. And but I think that's going to be a problem that they run into. I will say too, another thing that that I thought of when I was pondering this question is teachers. Professors and teachers. I would not at all be surprised if over the next year or two, schools stop letting you hand stuff in on Canvas or whatever online system they're using for stuff like that. They're going to be like, absolutely not. You cannot hand in a typewritten essay. You have to write the thing by hand and hand it in physically, and or at the very least scan it and then submit it online. Because, and I can totally see that, because like you said, Landon, what's to stop somebody from just having, Chat GPT write the essay and then just copying it down by hand? Nothing. But if I put myself into the mindset of a teacher, my rationale at that point would be, at the very least, they read their essay.
Yeah.
Even if they just word for word copy it down, if there's a type, like there's a bit in there where the AI hallucinated the student's name or something like that, then they can correct that on the fly. And at the very least, even if they haven't read the subject material, they haven't studied anything I've been trying to teach them, they will read the contents of this essay. And that's better than nothing. And like, as a teacher, I would just be like, listen, students, you're going to have to handwrite absolutely everything you hand into me this year. It's not your fault. It's not because of anything you did. It's not my fault. It's giant corporations, like tech corporations, made this world that kind of sucks for you and for me, because believe me, I don't want to be grading your handwriting, but this is what we live in now. You will handwrite absolutely everything that is handed in. Like, I can totally see that happening just in the next couple of years, if it's not already. Like, and that's the thing, we're coming into a new school year. A brand new version of Chat GPT just landed. I would not be at all surprised if this is on some teachers' minds right now. Like, do I have to hand them handwritten everything?
Yeah. Now, and I agree. I could definitely see that happening. What I kind of hope happens, and I know there's going to be some teachers that do this, but what I would like to see is these teachers that are worried about this learn AI, learn how the ChatGPT or Gemini or these different things work, and maybe show your students how to use it as a tool rather than just saying, if you do this, you're going to fail. No, be like, okay, you can use it as a tool, but I still want you to, and there's ways you can tell if it's been written, whether it's typed or handwritten, there are definitely, at least right now, as it gets better, that it's going to be harder and harder to tell. But as of now, there are still ways you can tell if it's been written by the person, because generally you know how the student is personality wise, kind of have an idea of how they're going to write things. And if it's all of a sudden really sophisticated and things like that, and this kid is usually failing, that's a sure sign right there. But I would say try to teach your students how to use it as a tool, because I mean, back when we were in school, teachers taught you how to use, not necessarily how to use Google, because that was just barely becoming a thing, but like how to use the library, how to use encyclopedia books, how to do these type of things as tools. Because I mean, those type of things you couldn't really just copy and paste out of. Some people tried to do it.
Yes.
That didn't work, obviously.
It's not, no.
But if you're teaching how to use the proper tools and how to use AI as a tool in your writing or researching or things like that, then I think it would be less tempting for most students to just generate the whole thing. Some are obviously going to try. You're never going to get out of that.
Yeah.
But I think it'll be slightly less tempting for most students to just generate the whole thing and use it properly.
Actually, I just had a thought. AI's answers and responses tend to be excessively wordy.
Yeah.
Which in and of itself, forcing them to handwrite everything that they hand in would get the lazy students to not use AI.
Yeah, that's true.
Because of how wordy it is and how long it would take them to copy it down. I will say, one of the most important things that I learned through school was how to do research. And that is, in terms of academic, ability, the single thing that I really learned in school that I still use professionally.
Yeah.
Being able to do research is a massively useful skill, both professionally and just in my personal life. So far haven't been hoodwinked by a single conspiracy theory. And that's thanks to being able to do basic research.
Yeah.
So totally important for teachers to teach that. I have concern with trying to teach students how to use something like ChatGPT in research, because sometimes it just straight up lies.
Right.
And that is the thing that is you can't, it will give you false information. It's not like your research prior to the advent of ChatGPT couldn't turn up false information. It's just there were telltales, if you were doing research on a topic and you did a couple of keyword searches in Google and you had a few different sources. Top one is Wikipedia, always a great source. The next couple are from websites. You click through them, you read them. They seem like normal websites. The fourth one down the list, you click on it and the website looks like it was made in 2001 and the banner image at the top is a pyramid with an eye in it or something like that. There's telltales that let you know, maybe I should not pay attention to anything on this website, But with ChatGPT, all of that information is available and it feeds it to you all at the same level of importance and polish. And so it's so much harder to tell just visually, as you research, as you dissect this stuff, what is absolute hogwash and what is true, what comes from a legitimate source. And you can go through and click through the sources, right, that ChatGPT generates. But I feel like that takes longer than it does on Wikipedia. I don't know why the interface is not necessarily great, but that's extra effort that you have to put in, which, to be fair, if you're getting sources or getting information from something like an encyclopedia, you should be clicking through the original sources to see where that information is coming from anyways. But assuming you do that with ChatGPT, sometimes the information is presented without a source. Sometimes the information is put there. It came from a Reddit thread. No source is provided to that Reddit thread.
Right.
Yikes.
It's just in the training data somewhere. ChatGPT just cherry picks it out, but doesn't know how to relate it back to a source. And so you don't either. And it's a dead end. It's essentially it's going and asking your drunk roommate what they know about a topic. And sometimes they're going to tell you useful information. Sometimes they're going to be like, I read a book for a class. It's like over there that said something about this, and you can go grab that book and do your own reading. Sometimes they're just going to make something up and and then pass out, and you're not going to have any idea whether or not that was real, you know? And that's ChatGPT as a quote unquote research tool, because it's not really a tool. It's a language model. It's
Right.
intended to mimic human speech, not human knowledge. And it's kind of sketchy from that perspective.
And I completely agree with everything you said. And that's where I would also, recommend for teachers, again, using it as a research tool along with everything else you already teach on. Because teachers are going to be showing students how to do research in other ways, because
It's true.
we were taught at least 3 or 4, probably 5 to 6 different ways to do research. And this is just going to be one of those things that you just add on to it. You can start here, but definitely go somewhere else as well to get
And I think
to do research and whatnot.
I think it's probably fair to say, because I personally, I disagree with the idea that teachers should be teaching kids how to integrate ChatGPT as a research tool. However, I agree with you that teachers should be teaching kids about ChatGPT. Teachers should understand how it works, understand how it is intended to be used and how it is used, and they should be able to show it to their students and then explain why you maybe shouldn't use it. Like, here's what ChatGPT is useful for. You want to make your submission email to for a scholarship. You want that to look more professional than what you have currently written. You take what you've currently written and don't use ChatGPT. Actually plug it into Grammarly and have Grammarly punch it up a little bit. But it's the same thing, right? It's a large language model AI. And then you can do that, right? It's personal information that just allows you to sort of zhuzh up your content versus having ChatGPT write an essay about something, right?
Right.
And this being able to show them, this is how it works. This is how you might be tempted to use it. Here are the reasons why you should not use it for that. And then be able to demonstrate those things. Because it's honestly not that hard to get ChatGPT to generate some absolute garbage.
Right.
So if you really just want to do that, you can do that, too. But it's definitely, as a teacher, you need to be able to address it.
Right.
And be able to explain to your students what it is. And if you're going to tell them not to use it, you need to be able to explain why. Because, as a student, nothing is more frustrating than a teacher saying, no, don't do that. And then when you say why, them not having a good answer. Because I said so is not an answer,
And maybe I completely agree with what you're saying. And that's how I would want teachers to do it. And like I said, I don't necessarily want them to be like, this is what you need to do. But kind of like you were saying, yes, they need to explain how ChatGPT and just AI in general works. And then, even if you tell students not to use it, there's going to be some that still try, even as a research tool.
Absolutely.
But again, that's kind of what I would how you were just explaining it. That's what I would want teachers to do. I wasn't necessarily saying they need to show them how to use it and then that's what they need to use. But yes, they show them how to use it, why it's useful, why it's not useful, what things to look for. Because again, there are things that even in encyclopedias, you can be using encyclopedia completely wrong for how you're doing research, and it doesn't do you any good. But it's just easier to use these type of things wrong nowadays because it's not it's far from perfect in any sort of way when it comes to any sort of research. And there are different AIs. I wouldn't use necessarily ChatGPT or even Gemini for any really hard research. It, again, might be a starting point, and then I would go from there. But I would use different AI forms, you mentioned Grammarly. That's a great thing when it comes to writing a cover letter or something like that, because it's a very specifically trained AI for certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas you could take a lot of one thing I thought of in this when it comes to doing research, you can find all your sources And I would take all that stuff and put it into like Notebook LM, which is a Google-based large language model. And the way it works is like you can put specific, they call them notebooks, and you put all of your research for that topic into this notebook, and then you can ask it questions, and it only takes from what you put into it. And that's really helpful and really nice. And those type of things, I think, are extremely useful when it comes to writing essays or storybooks or things like that. You can take this research and be like, hey, what happened at this point? Because like you probably should read, well, you definitely should read the research that you're doing, that you're finding. Yes, but if you need to reference back to it, you can do that using AI to be like, hey, what exactly happened at this point in this story or in this article or what, blah, 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 and it will produce that for you and lead you to the source again. But that's how I would suggest doing it. But yeah, definitely don't want to use like just your generic LLMs like ChatGPT or Gemini.
I suppose you might be able to get away with using something like ChatGPT or Gemini for generating like your bibliography.
Yeah.
Like if you want to feed like a series of sources in and be like, hey, generate me an MLA, whatever standard bibliography entry for this source.
Yeah.
That's probably fine. Because if it gets screwed up, then oh no, you lost like 1 point as opposed to failing the essay entirely or something like that, like.
And to be fair, writing your bibliography is like the worst part of doing an essay. I absolutely hate
bibliographies are so obnoxious. I hate them. So yeah, like 100% having a tool auto generate your bibliography for you. Use an LLM for that. Totally. 100% supported. And so, yeah, but no, I think that it's going to be interesting to see how this like develops over the next few years, because I am not convinced every time Elon Musk stands up and says something about how Grok is, 2 years away from being a generalized intelligence or in fact, I think it was Sam Altman with OpenAI literally said that this past week when introducing ChatGPT 5. Is just like, oh yeah, we're like 2 years away from a fully functional general AI that's going to be super intelligent and all that stuff. And I'm like, sure. Whatever. I don't believe this for a second.
Yeah.
So, and over time, I do think that it is going to become more and more important that you be able to demonstrate that anything you have made is not AI generated.
Yeah.
And that is going to apply to the stuff that you write, like a cover letter or a resume or an essay at school or something like that. Also, any art you produce, music or images, or just pictures you take with your phone's camera, it's gonna become like stupidly important over the next few years that you be able to demonstrate that, hey, no, I did not in fact make that phone call. It may have sounded like my voice, but it was not me.
Yeah.
And I think that handwritten essays in school is maybe where that starts, but we're going to need to start thinking about some of those things because despite the obvious harm to humanity with essentially no real benefit, all these companies are still pushing forward as hard as they can on all this crap.
Yeah.
So cool.
And, all this being said, this has been a really great conversation. And very interesting and just fun to, have. But I do, me personally, I do have some faith in the younger generations, the ones that are growing up with this. Because, there were our parents and our grandparents had these same conversations about technology that was emerging when they were our age, worried about us as their children. How are they going to do such and such or this or, and yes, there might be things that we don't do as well as they used to, but we don't necessarily need to. And there's going to be...
That's true.
That's going to be the case with the younger generation. And growing up with it, they're going to learn how to properly use it. They're going to learn these things. And I also like seeing some of these kids nowadays. I've seen a number of examples where they're just kind of on their own accord detoxing themselves from certain technology. They're like, this has been around my whole life. I don't need to use it as much or at all. And so they just get rid of it for periods of time, not necessarily altogether forever, but they'll just, I don't need my phone. I'm not even going to take my phone with me. I'm just going to go hang out with my friends and leave my phone or leave it in the car, so, and I do see that. And so I do have some faith in this younger generation. Like, I know that it always happens where people are like, oh, this young generation, blah, 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 blah. Like, shut up. Your parents said that about you too, so just shut up.
Oh, yeah.
I hate when I hear older people complaining about younger generations because it's very rarely the case that
repeats
as a whole generation. It's like there's individuals, yes, that's the scenario, but I think again,
but there's always going to be individuals. Like,
exactly, that's always the case. But I do have a lot of faith in this younger generation that they are going to become smarter than us when it comes to how to use this stuff, how to use it properly, what to look for. And it's going to get better, even though these companies are going to continue to do what they do because they have to make money. And that's really their only drive when it comes to doing any of this, is we got to be profitable. And so people are going to see that. The younger generation is going to see that and be like, screw you, I'm not going to use it, or I'll use it how I want, and it's going to actually be beneficial.
Okay, I have two examples that kind of in support of what you're saying, and then one completely random tangent you just reminded me of. The first example is, you think about things that people, when we were in school, I don't know how many times I got told by a teacher, don't use Wikipedia. It's not a reliable source. You can't use it. Don't even start at Wikipedia. And I'm just like, okay, looking at it now, Wikipedia is, in my opinion, possibly the single greatest accomplishment in human history.
Yeah.
It is so well put together as just this gigantic repository of fundamentally all human knowledge. And it is not bulletproof, certainly. Like, there's definitely still room for errors to be made on there. But the fact that literally everyone who looks at it has the capacity to go in and fix errors and provide sources, Wikipedia is, no longer like a third string source the way that encyclopedias used to be. Wikipedia is now like getting its information directly from the source a lot of the time. And it's a fantastic resource. And so, like all the parents and teachers back when we were in school that were all like, oh, these kids, they're not going to learn how to actually find information because they're going to go to Wikipedia for all of it. Yeah, it's because Wikipedia is flipping awesome. It works great, And a similar one with math.
Yeah.
Calculators. You remember being told you're not always going to have a calculator available, so you have to learn to do this stuff in your head or on a piece of paper. Turns out, I have a calculator available all the time, literally everywhere I go. I am never more than an arm's reach away from a calculator in this day and age. And so that's great, right? I can use a calculator for everything. No, I can do basic arithmetic in my head as well as my parents, as well as their parents and stuff like that. Like, it's not like that ability was lost. The calculator didn't take it away from me, right? I still learned how to do it. I just learned it differently than my parents did because they were using, I don't know, freaking abacus or whatever. So, So yeah, I think you're right. I do think that as kids grow up around this stuff, we're definitely going to see like a transitional learning period. And I feel bad for the kids that are in high school or like just starting college right now, because they're going to have the worst of it, because they're going to be like, whoa, this is a crutch. They're going to lean on that crutch. They're not going to develop as quickly as they need to academically or intellectually. And then that crutch is going to get kicked out from underneath them once they get out into the real world. And it's going to be rough. But the kids that are younger than that right now, I think you're absolutely right. They're going to grow up with it through school. They're going to be looking at it. They're going to see what it can do, but also see all of the flaws that it obviously has. And they'll figure out how to properly integrate it without causing themselves any undue stress or harm. So those are my two relevant examples. The third one has to do with the statement that you made that, these companies, all they care about is profit, and that they're going to make money because that's what they do. And I was just having this conversation earlier today about how there are a few companies that don't operate that way.
True.
That they actually, one of their top priorities is their customers and what's best for their customers. And you, listener, you probably already know who I'm about to say if you shop. Costco is one of the few companies out there that obviously wants to make money, wants to be profitable, but they know that the best way for them to do that is to provide the best possible experience they can for their customers. Because earlier today, I changed a diaper on my toddler that is their new, like they just redid it used to be Kirkland branded diapers were made by Huggies. Now they're made by somebody else. And when that was first announced a few months ago, there's a big hullabaloo on the internet about how, oh no, the Kirkland brand diapers are going to get worse because this other company makes worse diapers than Huggies. Not understanding that when Costco goes to a company and says, hey, we want you to make a Kirkland branded thing, they're starting with a product that company already makes, but then they're going to have notes. They're going to have feedback. They're going to want them to make changes to the production process to make something that is uniquely Kirkland. Some cases, it's fairly close. Like they're tortilla chips that are basically just exactly Mission tortilla chips, because Mission tortilla chips are already really great if you just want to eat salsa. So A+, we'll just ship them. But with these diapers, they clearly had some notes. They clearly went to this company and said, hey, we want to make a few changes, and did a development process, started selling these things. This diaper, I don't know how it hadn't exploded. It was fully, I don't know, probably 10 pounds of, I mean, it was pee. It was just wet, right? But it was a lot of pee in this diaper, and it held it all. I was stunned. I have 3 kids. I have never seen a diaper perform as well as that diaper did. And it's this new Kirkland brand. I was just like, you know what? Not all companies are out to screw us. Some of them actually do care about making their customers happy. And when you find companies like that, boy, howdy, do you have to grab onto them and hold on tight. And I think it's fair to say that Apple, Google, Microsoft, OpenAI, Twitter, Anthropic, none of these companies actually care about you as a customer or what your customer experience is. They only care if they can wring money out of you in one way or another. So,
Yep.
Yeah, that's fun. Anyways, that there's my tangent. That was Costco diapers.
Well, I really don't have anything to add on the AI thing. I mean, what you guys were talking
how about
about
diapers?
is,
Do you have anything to
I mean,
add with
diapers.
diapers?
I haven't tried the Kirkland ones, but now I'm curious. So.
I gotta say, they're size 6 Kirkland diapers right now. They're fantastic. I love them. Also, they now have Coke at our Costco locally.
Yeah.
So at the food court instead of Pepsi. But I will say, I was really disappointed when I walked past the fountain machines, and of the, I think, was it like 8 or 12 taps that they had there? Fully like 65% of them were just Coke. Like on each one, they had Coke and Diet Coke on there twice, and then Coke Zero on both machines. And then they had space for like a Sprite, a root beer, and a lemonade. Are the only other options besides just a bunch of cola. And I'm sitting over here as a person who doesn't really like cola. Like, now they don't even have Mountain Dew. What the heck?
Well, they did the
win
math,
some,
I
you
guess,
lose
or the
some.
research. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Diet Coke. I think they knew they were going to sell literally bajillions of gallons of Diet Coke. And yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and we'll close that conversation and we'll move on. Just a quick reminder, we did talk about this earlier, but since Disney came out and had their earnings calls and talked about this, Disney will combine Hulu and Disney Plus. They already have been putting those two together. Anything that you can stream on Hulu, you can put on Disney Plus. Basically what this is, they're just getting rid of the standalone Hulu app, basically, is the idea. And I bet shortly after, and this is just me, they'll probably just say, oh, we're just going to call it Disney Plus, and then all of a sudden Hulu will just be no more. But that's me just thinking out loud.
I mean,
On there,
seems
so-
likely.
I wouldn't be surprised if they kept a separate section that is dedicated to Hulu on Disney Plus. because that's kind of how it is now. It just keeps you inside the app. Because like
Yeah.
there's been shows that I've like, oh, that's on Disney Plus. Oh, it's on the Hulu part of Disney Plus, and they'll
Right.
probably just integrate that a little bit better. But I wouldn't be surprised because they have different sections of Disney where they have your typical Disney shows. They have Marvel. They have a Star Wars section. They have a
Right.
National
right.
Geographic. They have these different sections. They'll probably have a Hulu section because people are going to want to be like, okay, that's where I get my either live TV or recently live TV more quickly versus all the other stuff is stuff that's been there forever. So I wouldn't be surprised if they kept it that way. But yes, I'm actually kind of shocked that they haven't got rid of the Hulu app earlier because at this point, yeah, it kind of does. If you have Hulu and not Disney Plus, that's surprising.
I'm amazed. I didn't
Yeah.
even know that was possible. At this
But yeah,
stage,
so-
honestly, you should download the Disney Plus app and make sure that your Hulu credentials don't also sign you into Disney Plus. Like,
Yeah.
like just double check. You might have both.
Yep. And with that, they talked about those changes with the Disney Plus and the Hulu, but they also are making changes of ESPN. Yes, Disney, if you didn't know, owns ESPN. They are coming out with its own standalone ESPN to offer all the live content for subscribers. So basically, it'll launch in about 2 weeks, is what this says here, which is probably actually less than 2 weeks since reporting this on this here. But it'll cost you $29.99 per month. But if you have a bundle with Disney Plus and Hulu, it's $35.99 on there. So, but they did say the big news is the reason why they're doing this is to expand ESPN's partnership with NFL. They basically ESPN is acquiring the NFL network on there, so that's kind of why they're doing that. So I don't watch NFL, so I'm not either happy or sad for this, but those of you that do, there you go. So yeah, that's what's going to be happening with that. So I know it's a pretty big thing for Disney Plus. A lot of people probably wondering what's going on, and like we said with Hulu, that's where you're going to get your stuff is Disney Plus. So. All right. That's the end of that. Looks like we are at the end of this episode. Unless, Landon, you by chance have one more thing.
No, I don't.
No. All righty. Well, listener, we appreciate you listening to this little bit different episode on there. We might just make a little tab that says, for thoughts for us on here, just to put that in the section of like, hey, talking points. Let's talk about this. So, hey, and if you want to give us something to talk about, you're more than welcome to on our social media platforms, as well as callingallplatforms.com. You can take a look at some of the videos that are on YouTube, on our YouTube channel at Calling All Platforms. All right, dear listener, have a good week.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Calling All Platforms is a production of Supporter Sound Studios. To learn more about how you can support the podcast, go to www.patreon.com/callingallplatforms.